Welcome to the Palumbo Soccer Podcast. We have been communicating about all of the things that we're doing here at the Academy, and we see this podcast as another avenue that we can share our message here at the Academy. We feel our purpose is to educate and inspire our youth that come and join not only our programs, but our teams here in the club, but to build a community and to strengthen the connection that we have with our families. And that's going to be the purpose by having this podcast, welcoming guests on, and also at the same time, telling our story and bringing you guys into the behind the scenes and also involved in the stories that we create here weekly, monthly, and yearly at JPSA and JPSC. So I'm your host, James Palumbo. I'm the current president of JPSC and also the president and CEO of JPSA. And I have a overall responsibility for our operations here at beautiful Putnam Valley, 7 Bryan Pond Road. And I couldn't be happier to kick off the podcast with the founder of JPSA, which is Joe Palumbo. He's here. And before I get in and pass it on to him, and we'll talk a little bit before we get into the main content, I also am very fortunate to have our current Academy Director, Angelo Piccolo, with us here today. And today's episode, we're going to have Angelo and Joe not only going back and forth through questions and answers, but just sharing their insight on the Academy and our DNA here, and many of the stories that maybe have taken place 30 years ago and then also last week. So I couldn't be happier to have a co-host, Angelo Piccolo, and the current Academy Director here at the podcast, myself as the main host of the podcast, and as I said, Joe Palumbo, our first guest. And I know we now have these speakers in front of us, but I do have the gratitude to speak with you daily, as you are my father. And it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. So I know you had a long trip to get down here today from Cape Cod. How you feeling?
I'm feeling very, very good. To see this exceptional thing that's happening here, this podcast. I don't know anything about podcasts. I still don't know anything about podcasts.
The good thing is we don't either.
Right. Anyways, I'm here. I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to see the staff, all alumni of this wonderful facility, and I couldn't be more proud myself.
Awesome. Good. And health-wise, everything's good? You're feeling great?
Everything's good. I'm getting in shape, recovering from all my a couple of knee replacements and shoulder rotator cuff, a couple of taking care of all my wounds, and I'll slowly be back on the field.
Good. Well, we also know that your hands are working well, and you're mostly spending the time in the kitchen. Am I right? You can cook something up good for us today, or what?
I have several ideas of what I come up with. I mean, I haven't done this in a long time, but one of my trademarks is to, cook up some nice meals for you guys. But I'll be waiting for you guys to come and visit me in Cape Cod when we do that.
Well, as we get into the interview, that might even come up through the questions and answers. But everybody who has been to the Academy knows not only you are a chef on the field, but you are quite the chef off the field. So the legendary Joe Palumbo, coach and educator, is with us today. And from here, I'm going to pass it on to my co-host, Angelo Piccolo, who's going to take the lead in developing this conversation between Joe Palumbo and Angelo Piccolo.
Thank you, James. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Joe. God. Super excited to
love this guy.
To get this podcast underway. First episode, if you want to say that. I know James did one solo back in the day, a couple years ago. But for those of you that don't know me, I'm Coach Angelo. I'm the Academy Director here. Also grew up here at JPSA. I would consider myself family with the Palumbos. Countless meals and time and memories with these guys and girls. So super excited. So Joe, with you being here, a lot of people know you. A lot of people don't know you. So what we want to do is keep this podcast as conversational as possible. So if you could, I want to get things kicked off with just how everything started, where it started, where you were born. Obviously, we want to keep this soccer related, but kind of just give us a little backdrop of where you came from and how this all came about.
Well, I mean, I could say it could take hours if I could tell you how everything started. But let me start off with this. The first thing to start with is and
We're getting kisses here from
from
Joe.
That's been my trademark all these years. My hugs and kisses. Except I think the last time I kissed you, you were 6 years old. I think, Angelo.
Yeah, just about.
Sure. Anyways, to start off with my journey into developing this thing here is a tremendous love for kids and families in general. That's why originally this place was called FC Putnam, Family Center of Putnam. We wanted to get all kinds of kids involved here, but people encouraged me to use my name. My name really is Carmelo Giuseppe Palumbo. That's where I was born, in a small town in southern Italy, Calabria. And in that town, I was one of 5. There were 5 kids in my family. I have 2 sisters and 2 older brothers. And my parents pretty much, we worked, my grandparents originally had a farm, and we worked off a farm, and I was able to enjoy all the nice things that life has to bring, which is a very simple life. You have nature, animals, fruits, vegetables, trees. Eating started to become my, my thing, because we had the best of everything in the world, everything natural. Anyways, coming to this country was a big undertaking for us. It took us about 7 years.
And how old were you when you came here?
I came here when I was 12 years old, and we're going to be 13 in December. And I had 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters, so we came here. My father worked for a luxury liner which they had developed in Italy. It's called the Michelangelo, and he would just send people overseas. He was more like an agent for the company, and we were able to, since we have relatives here in America, in New York. My grandmother, she was able to put together a call for us to come to America. And in 1966, we boarded the Michelangelo to come to this country here in America. To New York, Ellis Island, where everybody comes at those days. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we had quite a journey. It was a terrible storm that hit us, and there was a good chance we wouldn't be here today, as we were hit in a pretty tough storm. Of course, at that age, being younger, my younger sisters, I didn't really think of the severity of this thing, except my older brothers and my mom. And but we were able to survive that. Came to this country, and then we lived in Brooklyn, New York, where everybody from my town came to, just about. We either came to New York or Toronto. So we have relatives in Toronto, mostly in New York. So my whole family came here to New York, and I went to school in New York. I started at my elementary school, so they put me back a couple of years because I couldn't speak English. So I was supposed to be in 8th grade, but they put me in 6th grade. So I actually 7th. So I did 7th and 8th at St. Martin of Tours, which is a Catholic school in Brooklyn, on Halsey Street and Knickerbocker Avenue, off of Warefield Street. And then I went to school there for a couple of years, and on to Canarsie High School, which was in the Canarsie area of Brooklyn. Although we lived in Ridgewood, I ended up living with my aunt, who lived on Foster Avenue, which was close to Rockaway Parkway, where Canarsie High School was there. So most of my relatives live in Canarsie. So I was able to go to Canarsie there for my freshman year. Freshman year done in Canarsie. Not the greatest experience in the world. It was a tough time living there during those years. New York, Brooklyn especially, was in the midst of gangs and problems, and my mother just kept us on a leash all the time, make sure that we didn't get in any trouble. But there was a lot of turmoil during those years, and we sort of survived it. Anyways, moving on to that, we moved to Peekskill, which was the country to us during those days. And when we came to Peekskill, I ended up going to Peekskill High School. My freshman year was at Canarsie, and then my sophomore, junior, and senior year was at Peekskill High School. Graduated from Peekskill, went to Keene State College in New Hampshire for 4 years on a scholarship. Pretty much, it was more like a package. These scholarships these days, they work out things. Well, the good news was that my parents are happy I didn't have to pay to go to school. So I ended up in college, 4 years at Keene State College, a couple of chances here and there to try out with a pro team. I got seen by a couple of people, especially actually one of the guys that unfortunately he's not with us any longer. His name is Dennis Violet. He was the guy that pushed me to go and play, bring me into New England to, at that time, North American Soccer League and ASL. So it was really a brief introduction, and to pro soccer in this country. And as you know, today is a lot different, and it's you got the MLS, but the NASL at that time just brought in some big names, and it was good for my ego that I played professional soccer, anyways. But I don't think I was on the same level as Cristiano Ronaldo and Mbappe.
You were still a pro,
or Messi.
Still a pro.
Anyway,
regardless of the era.
Far from it. But this is it in a nutshell. When I was done with my, and I hope this is not dragging out here.
No, not
I'm
at
just
all.
telling you
This
the
is
whole.
great. No, yeah, this is
the whole history of how I moved along. I'm sure that there was a lot of other things that I could share in between those journeys, but that you can find out from my book. I wrote a book when I was in the past 4 years when the beginning of the pandemic, and I decided, Sally and I decided, and upon the recommendation of the president over here, he said, "No, you guys stay there. This is." It was a trying time, another trying time, tons of trying time. I'm sure it was for everybody. But I said, "What am I going to do here? I think I'm going to write a book." So I wrote a little memoir. Name of the book is "One of the Best," and there's a story behind it. It's not me. It's one of the best is every one of you, every one of the parents, every one of the kids that came here. You are all one of the best, because that's how I started my journey into saying, hey, I had my fill of playing and traveling and playing all over the place in this country and abroad, and now I need to settle down. Fortunate enough, I met Sally McCarthy, who was my rock, and here I am.
Love it, Joe.
So once we did that, we came on to my first job was working at probably one of the best health clubs in this region, and it grew up to be one of the best, I think, and still is. Now called Club Fit. There was an ad that I answered. They were looking for a racquetball pro at Club Fit, and sure enough, I'm your pro. I'll come in here. I maybe had played racquetball 2 or 3 times before that. But because my degree in physical education at Keene State College, I was really a teacher. As soon as I graduated from the college, and while I was playing a little bit with New England, I was able to, I got a job teaching in a very small school, 300 kids in the school, K through 8. in Deerfield, New Hampshire, called the George B. White School. Fantastic experience, exceptional. This is where my love for kids and families really started, because the kids that lived in this area, they were like pure. They didn't have, like, I don't know, we're doing a podcast. I had no idea what that was. Instagram, all this technology was not, ruling. And personal contact was good. And with these kids, it was a dream. I enjoyed it because I went to school at 7 in the morning, and then to be there on time to play with the 7th and 8th graders on the playground, and be the official quarterback or something like that. Or and it wasn't. These kids had nothing. They didn't even have a gym. We did all the gym classes in the cafeteria. I had to develop all kinds of games and stuff, and the kids loved it. They were grateful, polite, cooperative. I mean, and I said, "Wow, I don't have to say anything. I just say it once, the kids do it." So that was a great experience, and I figured I'd take that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question,
into
because
New York.
coming to a new country, not knowing the language, I wanted to ask, like, where that love for kids and wanting to teach came from. Was it something that your parents instilled in you, or was it something when you came here you were like, oh, you know what, I want to work with kids?
Well, originally it was, for where I grew up in a small town in Italy, and as a kid, I always wanted to be around kids, but family, my grandparents, my parents, we didn't have many uncles and aunts over there because they were all here. So family spurs on, and the kids are part of a family. It was natural from there. But like I said, at George B. White School, that gave me, and actually when I was in college, and I took all my phys ed courses and teaching, and I did my student teaching and learning principles and philosophies of education. And that took me more, not just into teaching in schools, but having my own school. I always had the back of my mind that, when I worked at Club Fit, a very good organization, they gave me the freedom to explore and do things that I was told in college that, as phys ed teachers and working with kids, you have to be innovative and you have to come up with things, to talk to kids a certain way. And these are the things I learned in college. My personality and the way you come on to kids, knowing how to deal with a 6-year-old, and then 3 classroom later, you have 7th and 8th graders, so
Totally different.
it's a totally different thing, and you got to change your how you talk to the kids, and there's a different kind of personality at how you deal with kids. And as I got this job at Club Fit, slowly I converted the racquetball, because I was a racquetball pro. I could teach racquetball, but I wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
people used to beat me. They beat the pro if I played a game. But I was good at teaching the game, and I had a lot of students in that. But eventually, I looked at a racquetball course, and I said, "What can I do here?" I said, "This is," and it started with 3 little kids. I had a racquetball lesson with a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and an 8-year-old. It was Andy Marcus, Sam Kaufman, and Vito Salvador. These kids I will never forget, because the mom came over and says, "Hey, they're taking a racquetball." I said, "You got a new racquetball pro? See what you can do with them." So I go into the racquetball court, and I'm watching Sam hitting the ball, whack, and Andy hitting Vito. Like 6, 7 years old, eye-hand coordination. I said, "Wait a second." I said, "All right, guys, this is a good job. Did you guys have fun?" They said, "Yeah, have fun and everything." I said, "Next week, we're going to do something else." I said, "We'll find out." And I told the parents. So I brought in a soccer ball and 3 soccer balls. I gave them 1 each. I had 1 for myself. And I said, "Let's see." We kicked the ball around the courts, and sooner or later, I just, hey, we're having a ball bouncing off the wall, kicking it, kick it hard. I said, "Here, when you kick it hard against the wall," I said, "Sam, look at the how the noise that I make. I kick it, boom, hard off the wall. You go, whoa, I want to do that. So it's like they were enthused of the adrenaline that they got from this game, and if eventually I developed a couple of games where they have to knock the cone down, they play 3-on-3, and the game evolved. I mean, a year later, I had once I started these programs, I had court soccer. I had court soccer for little kids, instructional, where we teach the kids dribbling, passing, trapping, heading, and shooting. That's all. It was all in a routine. And eventually it evolved to bigger kids, where we played like the high school kids. They said, well, these guys can play, but let me see if they can learn the aspect of the game where they need to control and handle the ball when it's in the air. So I started the game. I used racquetball rules for court soccer rules. So we played 2-on-2, where you would serve the ball, and then the people in the back had to take it down, and they could juggle as much as they want, but they had to return it to the front wall, just like racquetball. And I ended up having a league with about, and actually I just saw a couple of the kids that used to be in this Upper Club this weekend. They're obviously in their 50s now, almost 40s and 50s. And we had a league, and they got their partners 2-on-2, and I would schedule game on 3 racquetball courts, and there would be 4 kids on each court playing in a league. We had tournament, we had structured it where these kids thought they were in the World Cup.
So I heard that everybody loved this except for the racquetball players. Am I right?
That's true. I was able to have, make friends with them sometimes. They say, wow, the kids get, they bring in their dirty shoes and then we slip on the field. I said, well, I'll get that cleaned up. The custodian to come over here and clean the floor up. Don't worry about it, you guys. So, in other words, handling conflicts between, because there was a lot of people, I used to think that people just didn't like kids. So a lot of people, because, you hear a ball hitting against a wall and somebody's playing racquetball on the other court and they say, will you stop that noise? You and these damn kids. I hate that guy. He's louder than the kids and the ball is louder. And, because as kids, you have to, use your voice,
Kind of want to, now that you mentioned it, obviously this being a soccer podcast and you starting it from a racquetball class, where did this love of soccer come from? I know you grew up in Italy and it's a popular sport, but what was it that gravitated you towards the game? Was there a specific moment as a kid? Like, what was it that you were like, this is the game that I want to play, or this is what was it a player? Was it a moment? Like, what was it that made you fall in love with soccer?
Well, as a kid, I can remember one time when I think I was 9 years old, and my brother Hugo is like 12. He's 13, 12 or 13. He was going to be 13, and they had put together a team in my town because at that time, we didn't, to go play against another town about 5 miles over from near Lago where I grew up. And the coach, the guy that put the thing together, actually the coach was the priest in my town, because usually we didn't have soccer, after school activities. After school activities, you get out of school at 1 o'clock, because school went from 8 in the morning to 1. You get out of school and you go home, nice dish of pasta asciutta, Angelo. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. On the table, my mom, oh God, what a cook. And I used to go home, have a nice dish of pasta asciutta, and then boom, onto the field, right? When we go onto the field, there was the rectory to where the church was, because, there was a small town, we had 7 churches in my town. And the church was right next to the field. And we would go into the rec center at church where you could play foosball and games. And the priest and the nuns over there, they would organize games for us. But when it
No
came to
coaches, just
no
you,
coaches,
other kids, priests, and nuns.
just play. Hey, get out there and play.
Wow.
And we go out onto the field, and and we would pick the teams and all the games and stuff like that. Anyways, I was with a bunch of kids, and the priest says, "Hey, your brother's pretty good, so why don't we get him to come to the tournament?" And then the bus was leaving, and and my mom says, "No way, you're too small, you're too young, you're not gonna go play." So, oh man, I thought I died. I was crying my eyes out, and I was hanging off the bus as they were leaving the car. No way I could go. I said, "Oh man, I gotta play." But what got me to go, what got me to play, to love the game as much as I do as a player, is when you go onto the field. The buddy says, "Okay, all the 99s over here, all the 22s, like whatever year you were born." We were grouping them according. Over there, you play like if you were 9 years old, you're playing with 14-year-olds, 15. Mm-hmm. And, it was tough, but, you had to take your notch. You had to learn. So, and I think that's one of the things that made.
So the competition of the game is what?
Also the approval.
Got it.
Because, when you get older kids are saying, "Hey, we want you on my team."
The younger kid, yeah.
Yeah, and as I started like my journey to coach and teach and start the camps, I saw that in you guys. I mean, first of all, James, whenever James went on the field at 5 years old, everybody looked at him, and everybody said, "Oh, look at the way he moves, look at the way, oh my God." And then they say, "Of course, that's Joe Palumbo's kid," not knowing that it wasn't me. Really, it was just the environment that he grew up in. So, I mean, he woke up in the morning, there's a sack of ball on the floor. He'd go outside and kick, and, and that's where my love of teaching the game came, way before that, but that really
enhanced it.
Did
you have a favorite player growing up?
For me, my favorite player growing up was always Pele. There were two players that we used to, when I was in Italy and when I was a kid. There was Eusebio, who played for Benfica and the Portuguese national team, and Pele. And there was a year where we thought they would all come to my favorite team, Juventus. And, so every great player that came to Juventus from overseas, we had a guy named Omar Sivori, who was the best, that was an idol. But Eusebio and Pele were like guys that were well renowned, and it just I wanted to be them.
So I want to get your thoughts on, you've been around the game for a long time, and with starting the academy in a country where the sport really wasn't as popular as it is now, what do you think the biggest difference is over the years? Where have you seen the game gone, and like where it came from and where it is today, and what do you think the biggest reason of that is?
Well, that's a tough question, because I mean, I see there's a lot of positives and negatives, and a lot of negatives too, with the way how the game has evolved in this country. The thing that I remember when I first came here, playing in high school, and and then through college, they started to I don't know how to put it. In the beginning, the game was natural, and today the game is artificial. Everybody's putting in, like you got training aids, and I went, today you got so much that everybody requires for their kids to get great, to get good at the game. And where naturally, if the kids have in them the fact that they love the game, how many kids here in the academy get together and say, "Hey, look, it's Sunday morning at 7:00. Can we get on? We go on the field, and let's get 14 of us and go play a game 7-on-7 on field 1." Those were my dreams, that kids would be able to do that for themselves. And there are two drawbacks here. The kids don't live close together. When we're in my hometown, we all go to the field. Everybody lives around the same area. They have to be driven there. And the other one is that everything has to be, taught to them. And I think that's important to teach, but more important is for them to have the will to play the game themselves and do things wrong. Then we can correct it. We can correct some of the things in a way where it's not, you gotta do this. You know what I mean? So the key to the academy here in the beginning, it evolved, is when I was coaching the team, when James was 7 and 8 years old, the kids used to get together in my front yard. I made a little field, 6 and 6, they'd play over there. Wherever the best practice that we used to have, and one of the teams that he had, he was called the Putnam Valley Pumas, and the first team that we had here, there were 16 kids on the team. You know what the best part of the game I enjoyed was, and they enjoyed it too, it was 8v8, the last half hour. Mm-hmm. I would announce the game. Everybody had a name. Baggio, Romario, Dunga, Winalda, all the famous names of all the people that were playing at that time. And I would just stand on the side and Ronaldo's got the ball. He looks to pass it back. He's got Baggio now. Oh, he's pressured heavily by Dunga. And no, he's not going to go forward. I think he's got to lay the ball back. And they would hear me. And, 10-year-olds, boom, lay the ball back. But before that, they learned the skills by imitating each other, and it was we did drills, but it wasn't drills. It was game-like stuff. And that's one of the things I like about the academy.
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, I think even for my age group, me and James are only 3 years apart. I think that's what the biggest difference is there's so much information for these kids now. Where back when we were kids, coming here especially, there was a lot more freedom. And I think that's what we're trying to do here at the academy, is give the kids the freedom to experiment. So with the Saturday league, just like you're doing, just like you said with the announcing, we're doing the announcing the same way, giving them nicknames, team names, professional names, but also giving them the freedom, but also giving them the key coaching points through the announcing. Oh, and Baggio's got the ball. He's going to dribble down the right-hand side. Oh, he's got 2 men in front of him. He's going to roll the ball back, give it to his goalkeeper who's open, and switch the field. So now the kids are playing the game, but subconsciously, that's what I have to do. Yes, I have 2 guys in front of me. Let me roll the ball back. So I think, to your point, the information and all these things that they have at their disposal is, yes, it's a positive, but it's also a negative as well.
Right.
So we kind of have to let the kids just play.
Yep, and that's the name of the club. Just play.
Just play.
And you know what? And when they play, we could correct a little bit along the way. And that's what I love about this now. The exercises, because I don't call them drills. They're exercises that are related to the game. Like I've seen some of the exercises that the kids are doing in the classes that we teach over here, and I couldn't be more happier, because now this is the next level. The kids already got, the idea of how to receive the ball, how to pass the ball, how to trap the ball, how to shoot, how to pass. Once they get those basics, which is, I've always drilled into dribbling, passing, trapping, heading, and shooting. That's always been my
Joe Palumbo skills test.
And now, the skills test. And now these are being used in a way where it's more advanced. And now you could do it. You can't be advanced with a kid that's just starting and say, "Oh, okay." A lot of kids say, "Oh, when do we play the game?" Well, you'll play the game, but I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong. And then they need to work on it. So it's I love what I'm seeing, and I also love what I'm seeing as far as the people coming back. Look at all this. Our staff is all kids that I've seen grow up.
And we just talk about the good old days.
That's what puts
back when we were kids.
A smile on my face.
Yeah. And more specifically, I would like to get your insight on what have been what has been the biggest change from when you first created this academy to now? What do you think the biggest differences could be, whether it's the families, the staff, the exercises, what or a combination of everything? What do you think has been the biggest change from when you
The
first started this?
same thing. What has evolved. A lot more. When I first started, we didn't really have a building. We didn't have a building like this. To be able to operate year round, we had to rent like different facilities and stuff like that. When we first started, we didn't have a building for the longest time. We just had this building in the past couple of years, 4 years. Well, how old is the building now? But we're 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's 5. No,
5,
not 5. 4.
4, and we're going on 5. Anyways, thank you, James. You have to refresh my memory of this.
I have to refresh mine as well.
It just goes to say that I haven't been around enough, and I want to be back. But the beauty of not being around enough is keeping in touch with the academy here through Denise and James over here. That lets me know everything every morning, what's going on. So you'd be surprised how much I know, how many of the kids I know. I know.
Well, you're up to date for sure.
Yeah, Rafinha. Oh man, what a player! Can't wait to see him. All right.
Going back to the changes that you see in JPSC, and not just like the physical changes in the building, and just more of I'm curious to know in your opinion or observation on the operations in general, on how you operated JPSC and JPSA from your beginning starting as the founder and president, and now as a
Right.
patriarch, and coming here at times and overseeing and evaluating. What sticks out to you that is maybe different for the good, and maybe different that in your opinion maybe is not as good, but it's different, it's a change, and
Yeah. Well,
feel free to share.
The difference is, when I first started, I was the president, founder, janitor, teacher, coach, counselor. It was more like I had the responsibility of a lot of things that I did here, and I had one guy that Eduardo, who was my right hand man, and he did a lot of the coaching and teaching here. A professional from Argentina. I was always looking for people that even at that time, but that was hard to come by, to get somebody who played in the first division in Argentina, professional player who's like, to me, for me, it was a great feeling. It was on top of the world having somebody like that. And I pushed them on to the kids to
Coach
really,
Nate?
yeah. And he did a lot of coaching. I'm sure he was your coach at one time. Yep. But the difference today is that single person that I've really had working here has doubled and tripled. And we have more professionals. James has done a good job to get the right people here, because when you're dealing with so many kids, you're going to need people that are that, number one, knowledgeable, and number two, sensitive to the needs of our members and the parents and kids, and number three, who are energetic, enthusiastic, and really can relate to the membership. And this is what I see right now from Instagram, from all the, not only on the playing field, but in the background, in the office, like Instagram and all Facebook, and putting all this stuff that we're doing out here. At that time, we didn't have the luxury. You just call people up, and now everything is out there to see all the things that we're doing today. In a way, they're similar to what I started, but in a way, they're more, how should I say, the numbers are greater, all right, and the service to these members is is greater too. So we have people, like yourself, like James, like Nick right now, and Alec, and you name a whole bunch of people. And besides, bringing in a guy like Eilish, who is who's a professional, who coached at Barcelona. So getting coaches to come here from all over the world, uh, Portugal. I have friends in Italy that come here and that have come here and are so impressed with it, and we're exploring their knowledge and relating it to some of the things that we're doing. Am I right? Is that one of the things that you're?
Not to be right or wrong, man. It's your feedback, and what I'm hearing, and you
I
can
love
correct
it.
me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is you feel since starting it was yourself taking on everything, not just with a responsibility, but with action and doing. And now you see maybe more of a collective effort from all of the staff, and all of the staff are contributing, whether it's on the field, off the field, in the building, whether cleanup, office communication, everything is staff are working rather than Joe Palumbo running around all over the place.
Yeah, I pretty much had to, like a lot of the staff was young, and people used to say, "Ah, Jerry's got young staff." But you know what? I like to have fun with the staff, and that's when I was working. I ran around with the kids, rolled around on the grass with them, and diving headers, bicycle kicks, you name it. I was there to do. I miss those.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is you talking about the staff and how it's grown when you first started this and doing the summer camps and having 120, 150, 200 kids sometimes a week at camp. What were you, how did you pick the staff? Like, was it, I like that kid, I think he could be a good fit with kids, or was it just like, hey, I need any bodies I can get to help me out because it's just me?
Nah, I didn't get bodies to help me out. I always had faith in all the kids that I raised at the camp, and as they got older, you being one of them. We wanted them. I would hope that they would work for us. Also, one of the original, I had a guy from Argentina. He grew up in Argentina too. I always had friends that grew up in other countries. That were the game was engulfed. They were engulfed in the game as well. His name was Fabian Videla, and he is now a teacher and at Fox Lane Schools, and he was an assistant coach in all my camps. He ran everything, and now a lot of these kids, Fabian being one of them, I recommended him to go to college at Keene State College in New Hampshire, where I came from, because at that time you recommended him to go to college. So I go to the college. So Fabian would recruit all his buddies that played for Keene State College, like 4 or 5 coaches. And like I told you before, I saw one of them this weekend. His name is Liam Daly. And now these guys are all married. They have kids and families of their own. They're living all over the country. But they would come to the camp and work at my camps and the academy. And occasionally I will retain one of them that didn't go back and build a future. Although the only problem was that they all met somebody in my programs, and everyone has a spouse that they got married and ran on and do their own thing, which is what it's all about.
Perfect. Well, I think we need to take a little bit of a break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back after this.